Hello guys, how are you? Welcome back to another story of HOA. In this story, we will entertain you again. It was a quiet Tuesday morning in the suburban neighborhood of Willow Creek, a place where nothing exciting ever happened. The kind of neighborhood where the most dramatic event of the week was someone forgetting to bring their trash bins back in from the curb. But all of that was about to change thanks to one woman, Karen. Not just any Karen. The HOA Karen. The kind of Karen who had a clipboard permanently attached to her hand and a list of grievances longer than a CVS receipt. This is the story of how Karen called 911 because she couldn't use my driveway for her food truck, and how it spiraled into one of the most chaotic, hilarious, and unforgettable days in Willow Creek history. I had just moved into Willow Creek 6 months ago. It was a nice enough place, quiet, tree-lined streets, and neighbors who mostly kept to themselves. The kind of neighborhood where you could leave your door unlocked and not worry about it. Well, except for Karen. Karen was the self-appointed queen of the Homeowners Association, HOA, and she ruled with an iron fist. If your grass was half an inch too tall, Karen knew about it. If you dared to paint your mailbox a shade of blue that wasn't HOA approved, Karen would be at your door faster than you could say aesthetic violation. I had managed to avoid her wrath so far, but that was about to change. It all started when my best friend, Jake, called me up with an idea. Jake ran a food truck called Jake's Bites, and he was looking for a new spot to park it for the day. Business had been slow lately, and he was desperate to find a location with good foot traffic. "Hey, man," Jake said over the phone, "you think I could park my truck in your driveway for a day? Your neighborhood seems like a great spot. Lots of families, kids, and hungry people." I hesitated. I knew the HOA had strict rules about commercial vehicles, but Jake was my best friend, and he was in a tough spot. Besides, it was just for one day. How bad could it be? "Sure," I said. "Come on over." Jake showed up early the next morning, his bright red food truck rumbling down the street. It was impossible to miss, with its bold lettering and the smell of sizzling bacon wafting from the exhaust vent. He parked it in my driveway, right next to my car, and set up a small table with a sign that read, "Jake's Bites, best burgers in town." Almost immediately, the neighborhood came alive. Kids on bikes stopped to gawk at the truck, parents walking their dogs wandered over to check out the menu. Even Mr. Jenkins, the grumpy old man who lived 2 doors down, shuffled over to order a coffee. It was going great, until Karen showed up. Karen arrived like a storm cloud, her clipboard clutched tightly in one hand and a scowl plastered across her face. She marched up to the food truck, her heels clicking against the pavement like tiny warning bells. "What is this?" she demanded, gesturing wildly at the truck. It's a food truck," Jake said, trying to keep his tone light. "Would you like to try a burger? They are half off for first-time customers." Karen was not amused. "This is a residential neighborhood," she snapped. "You can't just park a commercial vehicle here. It's against HOA rules." I stepped in, trying to defuse the situation. "Karen, it's just for one day. Jake's my friend, and is trying to drum up some business. It's not hurting anyone." Karen's eyes narrowed. "Not hurting anyone? Do you have any idea what this does to the aesthetic of our neighborhood? What if everyone decided to park their food trucks here? It would be chaos." "Karen," I said, trying to keep my patience, "it's one truck. For one day. It's not the end of the world." But Karen wasn't having it. "I'm calling the HOA board," she declared, pulling out her phone. "This is completely unacceptable." I thought that would be the end of it. Karen would call the HOA, they'd tell her to chill out, and life would go on. But Karen had other plans. Instead of calling the HOA, she dialed 911. "Yes, hello," she said into the phone, her voice dripping with faux concern. "I'd like to report an unauthorized commercial vehicle parked in a residential driveway. It's causing a disturbance and violating local ordinances." I stared at her in disbelief. "Are you serious right now? You're calling the police?" Karen ignored me, continuing her conversation with a 911 operator. "Yes, it's a food truck. No, there's no emergency, but it's very disruptive. Please send someone right away." Jake and I exchanged looks. This was getting out of hand. About 10 minutes later, a police cruiser pulled up to the house. 2 officers stepped out, looking thoroughly confused. Karen rushed over to them, her clipboard in hand. "Thank goodness you're here," she said. "This food truck is in clear violation of HOA rules. I demand that you remove it immediately." The officers glanced at the truck, then at me, then back at Karen. One of them said slowly, "This doesn't appear to be a police matter. Have you tried talking to the homeowner?" Karen huffed. "Of course I have, but they are refusing to cooperate. This is a residential neighborhood, not a food court." The other officer turned to me. "Is this your property?" "Yes," I said. "I gave my friend permission to park here for the day. It's just a food truck. It's not hurting anyone." The officers exchanged a look. "Well," the first one said, "unless there's a noise complaint or some other violation, there's not much we can do. This seems like an HOA issue, not a police matter." Karen looked like she was about to explode. "This is outrageous. I pay my HOA fees, and I expect the rules to be enforced." The officers shrugged. "Sorry. You'll have to take it up with the HOA." Karen wasn't done. She stormed off, muttering something about calling an emergency HOA meeting. Sure enough, by that evening, I received a notice in my mailbox. Emergency HOA meeting, an authorized commercial activity. The meeting was held in the community clubhouse, and it was packed. Karen had clearly rallied the troops, because half the neighborhood was there, armed with pitchforks, metaphorically speaking, of course. Karen stood at the front of the room, her clipboard in hand, ready to present her case. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, "we are facing a serious threat to the integrity of our neighborhood. Today, I witnessed an unauthorized commercial vehicle parked in a residential driveway. This is a clear violation of HOA rules, and if we don't take action, it could set a dangerous precedent." I stood up to defend myself. "Karen, it was one food truck. For one day. It's not the end of the world." But Karen wasn't listening. "If we allow this to continue, next thing you know, we'll have food trucks on every corner. Our property values will plummet. Our neighborhood will lose its charm." The room erupted into murmurs. Some people nodded in agreement, while others rolled their eyes. It was clear that Karen had her supporters, but not everyone was on board. After a heated debate, the HOA board called for a vote. The question: should food trucks be allowed in residential driveways, even temporarily? The room was divided. Some people sided with Karen, arguing that rules were rules and needed to be enforced. Others, like me, argued that a little flexibility wouldn't hurt. In the end, the vote was close, but Karen's side won by a narrow margin. Food trucks were officially banned from Willow Creek driveways. Karen looked triumphant. "This is a victory for our neighborhood," she declared. "We preserve the integrity of our community." I left the meeting feeling frustrated but determined. Karen might have won this battle, but the war wasn't over. The next day, Jake packed up his food truck and left, but the story didn't end there. News of Karen's 911 call and the HOA meeting spread like wildfire. Someone posted about it on Reddit, and it quickly went viral. The post, titled "HOA Karen calls 911 call she can't use my driveway for her food truck," garnered thousands of upvotes and comments. People shared their own stories of HOA drama, and Karen became an internet sensation, though not in the way she probably hoped. Meanwhile, back in Willow Creek, tensions were high. Some neighbors sided with Karen, while others thought she had gone too far. The neighborhood was divided, and it seemed like things would never go back to normal. A few weeks later, something unexpected happened. Karen's house was vandalized. Someone had spray-painted HOA Karen on her garage door in bright pink letters. Karen was furious. She called another emergency HOA meeting, demanding that the culprit be found and punished. But this time, the neighborhood wasn't so quick to rally behind her. "Maybe this is a sign," one neighbor said. "Maybe we need to rethink some of these rules." Karen looked stunned. "Are you suggesting that we reward vandalism?" "No," the neighbor replied. "But maybe we need to stop being so rigid. A little flexibility wouldn't hurt." The room erupted into applause. For the first time, Karen was speechless. In the end, the HOA voted to revise some of its rules, including the ban on food trucks. Jake was invited back to the neighborhood, and this time, Karen didn't say a word. As for Karen, she kept a lower profile after that. She still had her clipboard, but she seemed less eager to enforce the rules. Maybe she had learned something from the whole ordeal, or maybe she just didn't want her garage door vandalized again. Either way, life in Willow Creek returned to normal. Well, as normal as it could be in a neighborhood with a Karen. Jake's food truck became a regular fixture in the neighborhood, and business was booming. Karen never apologized for calling 911, but she did start ordering the occasional burger. And as for me, I learned that sometimes standing up to a Karen is worth the hassle, especially when it leads to free food. Thank you for watching this story. I hope that you would like this story, so please like, subscribe my channel to see some more existing stories.